Hello, and this is Miss Chi speaking, and welcome to your first Introduction to Creative Concepts lecture online. Yay! Alright, now, for the past few weeks, you have been learning about the creative design process, which is our problem solving process, yeah? Like how we do our research and try to understand whatever problem it is that we're facing, all the way to coming up with a refined solution. The refined solution is one that is strong enough to stand on its own. Meaning, when you put your product or your service out there in the real world, your users, your audience are able to understand what you're trying to tell them, and they're able to use your solutions to improve their lives. And most of the time, big brands like Apple or Starbucks and whatnot are very memorable because their solutions, right, be in the form of coffee or gadgets with very user-friendly interfaces, are super easy to use or understand, right? We've also then learned about the creative thinking skills, right? These 4 stages or strategies that we can use into coming up with ideas to help us reach from stage 1 of the creative process all the way to finding our solutions, right? So the creative thinking skills involve us pushing ourselves to come up with more ideas, to becoming more flexible by being able to look at an idea from more than one point of view, to becoming more original, being able to put our ideas together, and finally elaboration, which is very closely tied to our refining and finishing stage, which is the ability to cut away the unnecessary parts of our ideas so our main idea can stand as the most important part and shine as the star that it is. Yeah. So, okay. Today's lecture will be yet another theory about our minds and our brains and how we use this hardware and software to learn about the world. Okay. And it ties in very closely to the topic that we covered previously, which is our conscious and subconscious minds and our left brain and right brain thinking styles. Okay. This theory that I'm giving you is called Gestalt. Okay. And a Gestalt is a theory that started its life in the field of psychology. And it studies how our brains naturally organizes information in a very chaotic world. So, before I begin giving you the theory behind this theory, let me ask you a quick question. Is a bicycle when it's not put together? Meaning, you get it out of a box and it's just a bunch of screws and handles and wheels and one bicycle seat and levers and wires and whatnot. If it's this mess over here, can you sit on this and pedal and go forward? The answer very simply is no. A bicycle can only work when you put all the different parts together in the correct order. So a human being could sit here, put their feet on the pedal, move the pedal forward, which would then move the wheels forward, and off you go. Okay? So kind of the same with our ideas. All our ideas are great, but until you put them together in a meaningful way, nobody is going to be able to use them. You're not going to be able to solve any problems. Okay? Right. So, as I mentioned previously, Gestalt theory is actually part of the field of psychology. So psychologists have actually theorized that our brains are powerful enough to find patterns, right, based on loose information that we gather from the world, right? So because every day you're alive, you're bombarded with tons and tons of information, and your brain needs to very quickly sort out which is the most important information and which is not, right? It has to learn new things. And as we have learned in our analogy lecture, right, we learn new things by connecting it to an old idea that we have learned in the past. So, for example, you guys know what a light bulb looks like, right? It kind of looks like this. It's a round shape at top that kind of turns into a cylinder at the bottom, right? So, you see this image here on the left, right? You see the way the hand is shaped, right? So, because your mind is able to connect the shape of a light bulb with the shape that this hand is making, your brain is able to, inverted comma, see a light bulb here in the empty space of the hand and right above the metal conduit part of a light bulb, right? You can see the shape of a light bulb here. Your brain can fill in the missing information, that is the glass of the light bulb and the filament inside the light bulb, right? Human beings are great this way. If we are very lazy, actually very efficient at connecting the dots. Yeah. So, if we understand that the brain is powerful enough to connect the dots between information on its own, we can use this to create intuitive designs. Yeah, we can use this to come up with we can come up with solutions, right, that are so intuitive, because it's based on what people already know what to do. You know, if you know people can look for patterns in a certain way, you can design your products and services to follow these patterns, so people can very quickly pick up this pattern and figure out the rest of what they need to learn on their own, right? So this Gestalt psychology is actually commonly used by people who work with images very often, like your graphic designers, your illustrators, your filmmakers, right? But when you expand this psychology, you can actually apply its principles in a lot of different fields, right? For everything from mechanical engineering all the way to web design and computing to agriculture. Okay, so now let us break down the key parts of Gestalt psychology by watching this video, right, on the 6 principles that graphic designers and artists and filmmakers, basically these visual professionals, use on a daily basis to come up with logos or pictures or images. Yeah, so it's a quick video, just watch it with me and I'll get back to you after this video ends.
When looking at this, what's the first thing you see? Do you see a bicycle? Or do you see handlebars, pedals, spokes, tires, brakes, a seat, and a frame? If you're human, I'm guessing you saw a bike. This idea that we make sense of things by seeing a whole rather than the individual parts is called Gestalt psychology, and its principles are especially important for designers in creating complete and compelling visuals. Because of psychologists Max Wertheimer, Kurt Koffka, and Wolfgang Kohler, Gestalt theory can be broken down into 6 design principles. Figure ground. The thought that when we look at a scene, we separate objects so that some are the focus, or figure, and others are the background. Similarity. The notion that we place objects with similar characteristics in a group. These characteristics can include color, size, font, shape, texture, and more. Proximity. The belief that we group together objects that are close to each other. Closure. The idea that our minds close objects that are not necessarily together or complete in order to create a whole. Continuity. The theory that we continue to follow objects that are visually aligned until they are interrupted. Order. The belief that alignment and symmetry are attractive and essential elements of design. When Gestalt principles are ignored, designs tend to look out of place or incomplete, forcing our eyes to focus on little inconsistencies rather than the greater whole. You may not know exactly what seems off, but you will feel something is out of place. The best designs, unintentionally, make the world feel a little less chaotic.
So, let us review the 6 principles in Gestalt for figureground, closure, proximity, continuity, similarity, and order. Yeah. So, figureground, again, is the ability to see what's in front and what's at the back. Yeah. Or the ability to see the main idea from the supporting characters or the supporting ideas. Yeah. Closure is the ability to complete missing information on your own. So kind of like, you can see the shape of the light bulb in the hand in the previous slides. Proximity is the ability to, look at how different things can be grouped together. Yeah. Continuity is our ability to follow a steady pattern until something interrupts that pattern. Similarity is our ability to compare different shapes or different ideas that kind of look together, kind of like how nasi lemak and roti canai are kind of similar because they are very iconic Malaysian food, but when you look at it, one's rice and the other one's kind of like a very flat bread, right? But it works. You get it. And last but not least is order or self-regulation. That is the ability for us to actually understand the inherent order of things, or which one is more important, which one is less important, how one is connected to the other. Yeah. And also that a very clear order, a very understandable flow of information is a very, very desirable thing to have in your products or your designs or services. Yeah. All right. So, well, I'm going to show you a few case studies that's going to talk a lot about these 6 principles, right? And I want you to try to apply these principles into your own products or services later on. Particularly those of you guys who are going to be Mr. Eugene's class for design studies. Yeah, when you're designing your logos, your packaging, your posters, please try to apply the Gestalt theory in your compositions, in your designs, your choice of colors and shapes, etc. Now, so let's go to the first example. Now, as I mentioned to you before, Gestalt is used quite often by designers, and one of my favorite examples is the Toblerone logo. Yeah, those chocolates that come shaped in triangles. Yeah, so there's a bit of background information on this brand, and once I've shared that with you, I will break down how the logo is actually related to the history of the company. Now, okay, Toblerone is actually made in Switzerland, in a town called Bern, right? So Switzerland is very famous for its chocolates. So this company is very proud of their Swiss heritage. Yeah? So that's why they try to build a lot of Swiss symbolism into their packaging and also their chocolate itself. Right? So the first thing you need to know is that Bern can be found in the name of Toblerone, right? B-E-R-N, right? And this town has a coat of arms, or kind of like a royal logo, of a black bear on a red and yellow field. So that's why the Toblerone words, right? The Toblerone word mark here is made of red and yellow as the logo, right? And when you look at the mountain on the Toblerone packet, you will be able to see this shape, this shadow of a bear in it, right? And even this thing, when you look at it on its own, it's actually, when you really think about it, it's a bunch of horrible scribbles, a bunch of messy lines and triangles, right? But you somehow are able to understand that this is a mountain. And now that I've shown you this outline, you can finally see the bear inside the mountain. Okay. So when you break down the design of the Toblerone logo, what you actually find is the Gestalt principle of figure ground, where you have something in the front and something in the back. You also have the Gestalt theory of closure, right? Because the empty spaces in the mountains are just empty enough for you to imagine a snow-capped mountain, right? Like these white spaces here, they're actually snow on the top of a mountain, and this black shape here is the shadow on the other side of the mountain, right? And this is not just any mountain, it's actually the most important mountain, one of the most iconic landmarks for Switzerland, that is Mount Matterhorn, right? Matterhorn, that's how you spell it here, right? So if Malaysia has Mount Kinabalu, the Swiss have Mount Matterhorn, right? So you can also say that there is a continuity between the shape of the Matterhorn with the rest of the chocolates that you'll find inside the box, because unlike most chocolates that are square, the Toblerone people have decided, square is boring. So, we're proud of being Swiss, we're proud of our mountain. Let's make all our chocolates triangle as well, like a mountain. Yeah. So that's how you have pretty unique. That's how the designers of the Toblerone chocolate line have come up with a very unique and very memorable design to not only the logo and the packaging, but also to the shapes of the chocolates themselves. Yeah. So now that I've told you this, it's very hard for you not to see this anymore, right? So kind of like our analogy of riding a bike. When you put all this disparate information together in a meaningful way, you come up with a very powerful and very unique design. Right? Because you can imagine if you're someone from Switzerland and you go to a foreign country like Malaysia or the United States, right? And you pick up a Toblerone chocolate, you're going to feel a bit homesick because you can see all these meaningful symbols that is created based on on Swiss pride, Swiss pride on the name of their hometown, maybe the logo, the coat of arms of a bear, and of course the Mount Matterhorn, right? You know where else you can see Mount Matterhorn? You can see it in the Sound of Music. They keep showing the mountain very prominently in the movie. Go check it out. Okay. So other examples of figure ground and closure can be seen in this very iconic optical illusion, right? Like in this image here, because the center part is blackened, you may focus on the images of the silhouettes of the human faces become a little bit more obvious, yeah. Whereas when the faces are blackened, right, suddenly the figure of the vase becomes very clear, right? So this use of figure ground and closure can be seen in our WWF logo and also in a logo like this in the Girl Scouts, right? Because this is a panda because there's a cute little panda face here, and also because the fore legs and the hind legs of the panda kind of complete this panda's shape, right? So even if they didn't draw this one curved line, right, the rest of these black parts are able to create this very recognizable shape of a panda for you. Okay, and whereas over here, right, the Girl Scouts is a uniform body. This one is in America. Now, this is the Girl Scout logo from America, right? And what they're trying to promote in that organization is the unity between all races, all types of girls. So that's why you get to see white and black faces here. And it's all captured together in the Girl Scouts 4-leaf clover-like logo, right? So if you actually look at the Girl Scouts logo, you'll find that it has a more intricate design within it. But this very modern-looking logo has gotten rid of the the complex designs in the interior of the logo in favor for this very inclusive symbolism of unity between the different types of girls that will come and join this particular uniform body. Yeah. So, and moving on. Okay. Alright, this is a really cool optical illusion. As you can see, the ducks, the black and the white ducks, are positioned in such a way that you can also see the transition from daytime to nighttime, and also from ducks all the way to these fields down here, right? And this is a very expert use of figure ground and closure, right? Because you can see the figure of the ducks from the background, which is the sky up here. So, you know, black duck, white sky, white duck, black sky. And also you're able to see continuity on how the shape of the duck progressively transforms into this angled piece of farmland, right? Into this pattern of this checkered pattern of farmland that we have come to learn, that we've come to recognize from storybooks, from movies and whatnot. Okay, and we also get to see a bit of closure, right? Because when you notice this two ducks here, right? This part of the white duck kind of forms the top half of the black duck, and in that turn, this bottom half of the black duck forms this part of this duck, and so on and so forth. Okay, right. If you're interested in finding more cool optical illusions like this, please look up this artist, M.C. Escher. Right. Okay, so now that you have seen how Gestalt theory has been applied in flat images, you know, stationary images, static images, let me break down for you how it is applied in web design. Now, web design is quite different from just flat pictures, because web design requires your users to interact with your website. Yeah, they must be able to use your user interface, right? By clicking on buttons or keying in text, right? In the correct order, in order for them to get the solutions that they are hoping to get from your website. Okay, so now you have two completely different websites here, with two completely different web designs. Let me ask you very quickly, which one is the one that sucks? Okay, the answer is this guy on the left, right? It's horrible, because just looking at it gives you a headache. Yeah, so this is what we call bad web design, and it's bad web design because it's unintuitive, right? It's very difficult to figure out, like, where the hell do I click first? What is this? Is this a nope? That's a chat room. Why is a chat room here, right? Okay, oh, finally there's a search engine here, but it's so small in comparison to everything else on this website. When you, more often than not, this is probably what you want to use first when you come to a site, right? And oh my god, right? Like, look at the amount of colors and pictures and 18 different types of fonts. It's just too much information. Okay. In comparison, the Google web page is maybe one of the most intuitive web pages around, because there is hardly anything for you to do here. There is hardly any way for you to get this wrong, because Google is quite literally keying in your question here and pressing enter, or pressing Google search, and that's it. Okay, so now let me break down the Gestalt principles for you in these two websites, so you understand why one does poorer than the other. Okay, firstly, this is way too much information. It's an overload of information. You have no idea where to start. Here's a test. These words actually appear in this website somewhere, in this web page somewhere. Can you find it? It took me 3 tries before I found it. Okay. And you shouldn't have to take three tries to figure out what is the first thing you need to do. The next thing is, there is no proximity. Everything seems to be more important than the other. Everything is screaming for your information. What is relevant to the other? Okay, maybe these things are relevant to each other because they kind of look like the same shape and the same color. Then these things pop up. Why? Is this actually part of the screenshot? Is that what actually pops up when you put your mouse over it? Anyway, if it does, I wouldn't dare. I wouldn't dare pay too much attention to it because it's just adding more information to a very busy web page already. And lastly, there is hardly any continuity because this thing seems to be standing on its own. I have no idea how this is related to this. Can I click on this and will it give me the same results as here? It says search cars here. Can I also search vans here? Oh my god. Why is this up here? Is it how to use this website? Okay, so maybe this shouldn't be the first thing you see. Maybe it's this thing that you need to see first. Right? Oh god. Alright, so now you can probably tell the more I look at it, the more frustrated I get with it. Okay. Have you found the start here button yet? Okay. And let me ask you the next question. What is the start here supposed to do? Is it supposed to give you the prices of the cars? Is it supposed to connect you to a customer service representative for you to ask your questions? Or does it start playing Yankee Doodle Goes to Town when you actually click on the button? Right? Gosh. Okay. You don't know. So, in comparison, you have something as simple and as straightforward as your Google webpage. Right? It is in very clear order. The most important thing is this thing. This search bar right here. Right? Yeah, this is kind of big, just so you don't know what webpage you're on. But ultimately, you don't really even care about this. You just want to use this thing right here. You just want to key in your question here, like how to make fudge brownies, or how do you win the heart of a girl. Right? Whatever it is whatever problem it is that you have, you know that the solution is going to come from you keying in information here. Okay. The next thing is, alright, the important items are right next to each other. So you can find the cursor blinking in the search bar, and that tells you type here. You can also tell that you should type here and not here, not here, not here, not here, not at the bottom of the page, but in this one search bar where the cursor is blinking. Okay, everything else is static. This is the only dynamic thing here. This is the only animated thing here. Right? Well, most of the time. If you had a special occasion like Independence Day or International Women's Day, or someone winning the Olympic gold medal, then this may be animated. But even then, this is the reason you come to this page. This is where the solutions to your problems exist. Okay. Now, also, if you can't type because for some reason your keyboard's dead, or you just prefer to use your voice, you just need to press on the microphone icon here, and this will also fill up with what you say through voice to text translation. Okay, so these things are important. Okay. Other things that demonstrate clear use of proximity is the Google search button here in gray. So after clicking this very important thing, after typing in your queries into the search bar, you may click on this to enter your search. Yeah? Okay. And also, if you're feeling a bit random, you may choose to click on this. Okay? But you notice this button is on the left, and this one is on the right. So this indicates that this is more important than this, because when you read English, you read from left to right. Top to bottom, left to right. So this is clear order and clear proximity. Okay. Can you imagine if this button was down here on the bottom left of the screen? You know, like all the way down here. You're going to ignore that. Right? But because they want you to understand, this search bar is very closely linked to the confirmation button, this Google search button. They've put them this close to one another. Okay. Then they have all this external information and your ability to change to a different language. All at the bottom here in tiny, tiny font. So very clear order, top to bottom, left to right, and very clear proximity. All the important items are right here in the middle of the page. Okay. And last but not least, very clear continuity. They deliberately unify all these items together, but they don't display your search results at the bottom or at the top, at the side. They make sure that after you only get to see your search results after you've filled in the search bar and pressed enter or press Google search. Okay? Because they don't want you to confuse these things, these options, with the search results that you are actually looking for. Okay? Your users don't need to understand how this translates to a whole dump of information underneath. It just needs you to click on this, and then it'll take you to a brand new page. Right? There is no distractions, not even the results themselves, to pull your attention away from this search bar and these two buttons. Yeah. I know, it may seem like I'm making a very big deal out of very little design. But let me tell you, less really is more, right? Because the most refined ideas will have no distractions, no decorations, nothing else but the very bare minimum your users or your audiences need to get the maximum amount of benefit from your product or your design. Okay. The rest of it, they will figure out in the next stage of your design, in the next web page or the next frame or the next page of your products or services, right? Okay. It's kind of like, when you're ordering food from McDonald's, you go to one counter to talk to one speaker, right? Or to tell your order to one attendant, okay? And then you have to go to another window to pay your money. So in the time between telling someone your order to paying for your food, in that small window of time and space, the staff at McDonald's can go and get your order fixed. Put your buns and your burgers and your fries and your drinks together. So all you need to worry about is paying for it and going on your way. So there. Okay. Last but not least, I want to show you how Gestalt theory has been applied in sustainable design. Now, what sustainable design means is that when you're designing a product or a service, it doesn't pollute the environment. It doesn't take more resources than necessary to create your product. Kind of like how most papers today are created from recycled papers, recycled newspapers, recycled bags, recycled whatever, right? As opposed to cutting down brand new forests every time you want to create a box of papers. Right? Other examples of sustainable design is, for example, your brands like H&M and Uniqlo, who will take old discarded clothes, break them down, and create brand new cloth or brand new textiles to create brand new clothes. Okay. So, sustainable design is a very big field. Today I'm going to show you an example of Gestalt theory that has been applied in this area of farming called aquaponics. Now, when you look at the natural world, you will find a natural order between the plants and the microorganisms and animals, right? Well, when you look specifically at an ecosystem of a river, right, you will find that the plants in the river or along the river bed or the side of the river will actually feed the fishes, right? And the fishes will eventually produce waste. Yeah, they will take a dump, and their waste will actually feed microorganisms or worms living in the water. Now, these microorganisms will then create gases like nitrogen or minerals like phosphate and etc., if I remember correctly, and that will enrich the water, which will then enrich the soil, which will then promote healthy growth of plants in the riverbed or alongside the river. So this is a very productive natural cycle in a natural environment such as the river, has been broken down, all right, and replicated in little tanks, of like for this example here in the middle, right, where you can actually have a little fish living in a small little fish tank. And when you feed the fish, the fish's waste will then go to fertilize the plants that you have up here, and the plants will in turn create oxygen from carbon dioxide that is produced in the water and to create oxygen and so on and so forth. So you basically copying the order of a river ecosystem, right? And you're actually bringing these separate parts closer together, like in a single tiny unit of an aquaponic aquarium, right, to create a small little ecosystem in your home, right? Now, when you replicate the system on a factory level scale, yeah, when you actually get warehouses or rooftops or farms, right, filled with these miniaturized ecosystems, right, you can actually grow quite a lot of food from it, and it's actually a lot more environmentally friendly compared to uh, our traditional forms of agriculture, where we need to clear off giant areas of forests to plant our crops, and then we need to fertilize our crops with man-made artificial fertilizers, which will damage the soil and pollute our waters, and also harm whatever wildlife or insects that live in the area around the farm. Okay, so instead you can have aquaponics systems like this, and you can actually create a farm in the city itself, where there is probably a lot of empty warehouses or rooftops on tall buildings, or even in your own garden in the middle of the city. Okay. So again, urban farmers, right, have used the natural order found in a riverside or a river ecosystem, and they have miniaturized it. They brought these things closer together, these disparate parts of an ecosystem together, and they've made tiny little aquariums like this, which you can actually, put at home or in your room or in your office, right? Or you can actually replicate it in a factory line setting like this and actually use it to produce food for a lot of people. So here is the plants at the top. Here is the tank full of water, and the fishes. There are actually fishes down here, and it's the same system in this form or in this form. Yeah, and bonus, you can actually eat the fish if they get to, if they overpopulate one tank, you can always make a new tank and migrate the fishes there, or you can just eat them and there's extra source of protein. So yay, everybody wins. Alright, so that's all for Gestalt theory. Try your best to apply it for your designs and for your products or services for the upcoming final project. And hopefully, I hope you continue to use this really interesting and very powerful tool in your degree when you're creating your games, or when you're designing brands, or writing articles, or coming up with business plans, right? And websites and apps and so on and so forth. Yeah. So remember, your brain is a very powerful tool that is capable of completing the picture, connecting the dots between ideas. So if you follow a pattern, right, of ideas, you can build a product or a design that people, in a way, subconsciously already know. It's already programmed in them. So, all they need is a little bit more time to figure out the rest on their own. So remember to fill up the quiz that comes along with this lecture, and that will settle your attendance marks for this replacement class. So as always, Ganbatte kudasai, do your best, and I'll see you in class in a few days' time. Bye!